Hey, welcome back to my channel, Crafting with Cami. Today I have a double page layout to share with you. This is going to be a process video. Here's the photos we'll be documenting today. We went and visited my sister and her little boy. So this is my nephew. He's about 6 months in these pictures. This is my husband with him. And then my husband drew this portrait and gave it to my sister and her husband. So we surprised them with that. And it was just a really fun day. So let's go ahead and move these out of the way. I also cut down some 3x3 photos. So these are just kind of supporting photos of the story. I'm thinking of bringing in this A Day to Remember title that is from the Sweet Memories collection, which I will be using today. Anything that's still available, I'll have linked below. I know with the Close to My Heart news that came out last week, a lot of things are flying off the shelf. So I'll link that, but you may want to watch for it to come back into stock. So I'm just lining up my white daisy cardstock. I like to tack the back just a little bit with some adhesive. It comes right off the Versamat, but that way it doesn't shift on me while I'm laying my pieces out. I like to start by laying my photos out so I can determine where I want my pattern papers. Originally, I was kind of going off of a sketch, but I printed my photos larger than what the sketch called for, so I am kind of tweaking it, making it my own. I typically like my title to be on the left-hand page, so I'm thinking somewhere up here, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to be playing around with it a little bit more. Let's try bringing this one down, and then I can move the picture of myself with my nephew over to this page, and then this one has more space up above, so we can kind of tuck that title over more since it has a lot of wall in the upper left-hand corner of the photo. Let's move these back over. I can make a little more room for this one down here. That's looking pretty good, but now my title covers the face, so let's bring that back down. Let's go ahead and center that one, bring all of these back down. I can raise that title up a little bit. I have some stickers left on the coordinating sticker sheet. I really like these border strips. They're about a 1/2 inch wide. I could go along the top of this page and the bottom of that. There's only 2 on the sticker sheet. I could put one on the left-hand page and then one on the right to have it carry across the page. I also have these zip strips. That's more of that periwinkle color. This one is only about 6 inches long. The other one is a full 12. I had used half of that other one. They were both 12 inches. Here's that sticker sheet again. I've been using this collection quite a bit. I also have some of this sage colored paper that is patterned, and it does kind of match my shirt and my husband's vest a little bit. So that might be an option to bring in. Let's see what other papers I have left. I have some of this camera pattern and then this ledger paper with that really cool collage down at the bottom. Let's see, I have this pattern paper. I really like that one. All of the detail in there. So I have a lot of scraps with this collection since I've dug into it quite a bit. Let's see if I can bring this one in. It even matches that strip, that sticker strip I was talking about. So if I put that on the top and bottom of this page, then I could use this piece over on that side. Actually, let's try tucking this behind these photos here. And then let's line these back up so we can get an idea of what it'll look like. These 2 smaller photos definitely need mats behind. They get lost in that pattern paper. And then I have some of that periwinkle, which brings in those cameras and those film, what are those called? Those viewfinders. So that periwinkle brings in those icons out of that paper. And then I could bring this one to the top and bottom. Now these stickers are very sticky, so I'm actually going to remove some of the adhesive off of that so I can play around with it on my papers without tearing anything. All right, I got the adhesive off. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like at the top and bottom. Definitely needs something in the center, but I do like how that brings that pattern from left to right. On the back of the zip strips, it tells you the coordinating colors in this paper collection. So these are periwinkle. Let's bring in some plain periwinkle cardstock and see what that would look like behind these photos. So the larger ones I could do a double matte, and I do like that. So let's go ahead, and I like sticking the picture down to the paper first, leaving however much of a border I want all the way around, and then I'll just cut those two edges. There's that one with the double matte, and I'll go ahead and get the other 4x6s matted on that as well. I'm not sure if I want the 3x3s directly onto the periwinkle or if I want to double matte those as well. So here's just with the periwinkle. I'm bringing in some white scrap paper. I just hang on to all of my scraps and set those aside, so when I just need a little piece, I have that. So I'm bringing in some white, and I do like how that brings in that photo more. So let's go ahead and double matte these ones. I need some more color on that left-hand side, so I'm thinking about bringing in the periwinkle paper, and I could leave about a 1/2 inch border all the way around. Move those out of the way here. But that would bring in the periwinkle that I matted those 4x6s on the other page. Let's see what this will look like, or maybe a 1/4 inch. And then those strips I could have just over the periwinkle and continue that white border around. So then this one will go right about here. It's hard to see with that. I didn't want to cut my paper down yet in case I decided not to go this route. Let's lay these back out here. I'll bring that title back in to make sure that green looks good on that periwinkle. I am liking that, but now the right-hand side looks very plain. So I'm bringing those zip strips back in, bringing in some more of the periwinkle onto the right. I do like that up there, but I'm not loving the entire layout. It just doesn't go well together. So off camera, I switched them around. I decided to bring the page that was over on the right over to the left, just literally switch those around. Since this is my scrapbook, I thought that the picture of my husband and I with my nephew would be a good starter photo. For some reason, I like my focal photos on the left with my title. So then I have the title on the left, the photo of me with my nephew, my husband, and then to make that title pop more off of that pattern paper, since I have so much of that on this left side, I matted that sticker with periwinkle cardstock, and it just kind of makes it stand out behind that busy pattern paper. So then on the right-hand side, I can do more of a grid style and fit more of those photos and add my embellishments. Since I have so much periwinkle on the right-hand side, I am considering doing a matte behind this white cardstock. So let's bring in a 12x12 periwinkle. And what would that look like? Oh, it's shifting on me. If I do decide to do this, I'll gut that periwinkle so I'm not wasting so much cardstock back there. I do like how that has a stopping point for your eye with that periwinkle behind there, and it does bring your eyes into the center where the photos are matted with periwinkle. Let me move this one out of the way. I'm not sure how I want to handle that second page, but I am liking how this first page is looking, so let's just bring this into center, and I'm just going to focus on this one page for now, get this one perfected, and then I can bring in that second page and do a coordinating page to this one. So I don't have all of them matted or double matted at this point because I moved some of the photos from the right page over to the left. So let's go ahead and finish getting these all double matted. Those are all double matted now, and I ended up choosing my favorite photos of myself and my husband with my nephew. That'll be my focal photos. The second page can kind of be my additional photos to tell the story. I'll gut the periwinkle cardstock. If you're not familiar with gutting cardstock, I like to use this type of cutter so that you don't have to cut all the way to the edge. And I only need a 1/4 inch showing, so I'm actually cutting it at 1/2 inch to give myself another 1/4 inch of adhesive. So I'm cutting it a 1/2 inch in to 11.5 inches over. And then I'll do the same. I'm lining it up at my 1/2 inch, and then I'll start it at a 1/2 inch. and go to 11.5. And I'll just do this all the way around. As I was attempting to cut this, my Bernice decided it was time for some attention, so she's sticking her nose in here. There she is. She kept nudging my arm as I was trying to cut. Yes, you deserve lovies too. Okay, can I get back to cutting this now? Does anybody else's dog have to be right in the center of what you're doing? Okay, let's get back to this. It's still tacked right here in the corner, so I'm just looking for my scissors, which I'm trying to stretch over my dog to find, so we'll just use these Cricut ones. All right, I have that periwinkle frame cut. Let's go ahead and bring in that white daisy cardstock again. And that is cut 11.5 by 11.5, so I have 1/4 inch of the periwinkle border showing. And then I have that pattern paper that will cut down to 11.5. There we are. And I could go a little further up or down. It doesn't need to be completely centered. Since I'm having that title hang off up there, I might bring it down a little bit. I'm bringing my photos back in so I can get an idea of what this is looking like. I have these periwinkle zip strips. If I put one down there, I may be able to cut this 6-inch piece and have it come out either side of the title. I'm bringing in my mist ink, and this is a coordinating color. You can see a little bit in the background of that pattern paper. I'm just going to run it along the one side of these zip strips where it's lining up with the white cardstock, just to give it more of a defined edge. I got my pattern paper and the zip strips all adhered. I used my T-square ruler to make sure everything was straight, and I actually did end up centering the pattern paper. It's about 1 inch down, 1 inch up on that white. And then the title, you can see there's a little bit of white next to it where my zip strip wasn't quite long enough. I'll add an embellishment there to hide where that doesn't line up quite right. So now I'm just getting my photos adhered. I'm making sure that I have enough room for where I want my embellishments, make sure everything's straight. I'm bringing in my sticker sheet to see if there's any embellishments that'll look nice next to that title, and I think this butterfly will look perfect right here. I do think I want to pop it up though to give it a little more dimension next to that title and just help it to stand out. I'm still using up some of these small foam dots I have, and then I like to use that background piece of foam for larger sections like this. And I just need to trim a little bit. I got a little carried away by the antenna, so I don't want that to show. These micro tip nonstick scissors work great for that. And I do have that linked below if they're still in stock. We'll just cut away some of that, and then I can use some of those little dots. We do have foam tape on our website as well. That is linked below too. And I'm not sure the angle, but we're going to put it right about here. I like how this is coming together. Let's bring in that second page again, and that'll help with our embellishment placements so that both pages are kind of balanced. So let me make sure this is centered for you here. Got everything cleared off of my Versamat so we can start with a clean, fresh start. I know I want to bring in these pattern strips because they go so nicely with that collage paper on the left. Do I want to bring them horizontally or do I want to bring them vertically? I feel that if they go horizontally, it looks like we're trying to continue the periwinkle over, which might look kind of odd. So let's set those aside. Let's bring my photos back in. As you can see, I had one idea in my head when I first started this layout, and then it just took a turn, and I'm just winging it at this point. Nothing is going as I had planned, but it'll come together. We just got to keep playing with it. So I'm playing with those 3x3s below these. There's a bottle on the couch behind my nephew right there. Maybe I can hide that with this picture of my sister's family. I could bring these photos in on the right, or maybe we can push this one down. I can't go too far down with that. And then my husband could go up a little bit more and kind of nestle in between those two. And then I could bring these ones up. That doesn't look too bad. And then I could have some embellishments or journaling in that bottom right-hand corner. Okay, what if I move these and I bring this one up and then the 3x3s could come down and kind of brace those 4x6 photos. We could bring these all down then. Okay, I don't hate that. And what about these strips? Would that make room for these? We could go all the way to the bottom. And then maybe the other one all the way on the top of the page. Okay, we have a lot of white space in the center now. So what are we going to do to fill in that white space behind the photos? We could bring some periwinkle. I have that butterfly up there, so bringing some embellishments maybe down here. I need to bring these pages together and help them coordinate, so I'm bringing that periwinkle back in. I'll add a 1/4 inch frame to the right hand page as well, so it looks like one cohesive layout. I'll get the periwinkle gutted off camera and my white daisy cut down to 11.5 squared. I also went ahead and double matted all of these 4x6 photos, and I did the 3x3 as well. Let's bring those sticker strips back in. I could put one down at the bottom of this white, and then the other one at the top. I could bring my photos down just a little bit. And I do like that, but let's add some of that mist ink to the sides of those as well. And that'll kind of go along with what we did to the periwinkle zip strips. So I'm just adding it to the one side of each of those. And I'm going direct to paper so it's nice and defined. And then that'll go down there, and we can do the same with the top piece. And that'll go right up top here. Let's bring all that together. Yeah, I am liking that. I have some sage pattern paper. It has this super small, almost a diamond pattern. I could bring that in as like another border. So I just cut those at 1/4 inch. The pattern strips are about 1/2 inch. So I think that would look nice if we went right about there. And that kind of brings in some of that green from our title, A Day to Remember. It brings it down or over to that right hand page as well. So I know I like these sticker strips, so I'm just adding some adhesive. Since I removed the adhesive off of those earlier, I'll just need to reapply that. And then for the green strips, using my Barely Art Glue will be the easiest for that. So I'm just applying a thin line, and then I can kind of wiggle that into place down here. And I do want to cut off those edges where they go over that periwinkle border, but I thought it'd be easier to handle it leaving that longer and then just going through with my micro tip scissors afterwards and cutting them down. My photos are adhered down. Let's start embellishing. So I have my sticker sheets. I have a few left on here. I grabbed these butterfly stickers off of that sticker sheet. I removed the adhesive so I can play around with them. There's 3 butterflies on a strip. So I'm thinking if I have the butterfly up by the title, I could kind of make a visual triangle going across the 2 pages. I'm not sure where I want this other one, so I'm just auditioning it around the pages. Let's just set it there for now while we take a look at what else we have. I had punched out all of the cardstock embellishments. These are from the workshop kit. Well, these are actually stamped. The flowers and leaves are stamped and die cut. But the rest of these were from the workshop kit. And you can see on the back, some of them say the project they go with. But I've just kind of been doing my own thing, so I have all of these left to use. So I'm not sure that I want to bring in any more mulberry, but that would be an option since there is mulberry in the background paper. So I'm just kind of pulling out anything that I might use. I already have a lot of green, but I could bring in some of these hearts, and that would bring in some mulberry from that pattern paper. That might be an idea. Pulled out the flowers and leaves that I had stamped from another project. So I might be able to use those on here as well since they're the coordinating colors. So I have my reverse tweezers, and I'm just going to play around with these embellishments for a little bit. These reverse tweezers make it super easy to move the tiny pieces around and keep my hands out of the way so I can actually see what it'll look like. These white leaves came from that workshop kit, and they're white with the veins being that sage color. So, and then we also have some sage leaves from that same kit, but it really stands out, that one sage leaf. Maybe up here so it blends in a little more. And then I had stamped these flowers with mink ink and mist ink, so it coordinated with the paper since I used this paper pack on a different layout. I just had some extra florals. I'm dovetailing this since I do think I'll use it down in this cluster. The dovetail just kind of makes it look more like a banner and not so flat. I'm bringing in some of the arrows. I want to bring some mulberry down into this cluster. I like to keep each color in each cluster. So I want some mulberry down in this one as well. I didn't like how the florals were getting lost in the pattern paper, so I thought maybe that mulberry square would help them stand out against that. There's no point in wasting the bottom half of this tag since I'll be tucking it under, so I just cut that off. This cluster is coming together, so let's add some adhesive to this heart. I'm using my Barely Art Glue. It has that nice precision tip, and then I'm just holding it above where I want it, and then I'm moving that tag out of the way. And let's go ahead and bring that tag back in. It says open house, which I thought was kind of perfect because my sister and her husband opened their house to us. One thing I like to do with my clusters is having them all touch. It just makes them look more cohesive and like nestled together. So when I'm struggling with my embellishment clusters, I think of just bringing them closer together, having them layer, having them touch. The embellishing is not my strong suit. It does take me a while and I fuss a lot with it, but I think this cluster came together cute. And we can even use some 3D foam on some of the pieces. I used my tape runner on the pieces that are large enough. I'm just going to tuck that leaf back behind here, and then this little guy will add here, and this bigger flower is on 3D foam tape. So we'll go ahead and pop that up and kind of overlap it on all of those. All right, let's keep going on these other two embellishment clusters. I already have that butterfly adhered, and I thought it'd look good to have stuff tucked under it, so I cut that little flower in half, and we'll just slide that under the butterfly wing. And then this arrow is kind of nice. It brings that mulberry in, and it directs your eye to the next page. Down below here, I do need a spot for my journaling, so this mulberry square would work good for that. And if I just keep it nice and simple with just one floral, one leaf, that gives me plenty of room to journal. This heart looks good down here, but it almost gets to be too much. And I wanted to bring in that other butterfly, so I dovetailed it. It does kind of get lost in that pattern paper, so I think I'm just going to keep this nice and simple with my journaling in there. I cut my journaling out on the computer on the Avery Clear shipping labels, and I did it in two sections so I could have it kind of wrap around that floral in the upper right-hand corner. So I'm just kind of laying them out to see where I'll have my flower and how that'll position. I did type that out in gray rather than black. Black just would have been too harsh with this layout. I don't have any other black on here, and it's a very soft color palette. So I printed it out with gray writing, and I haven't peeled the back off yet since I do want to play around with how it'll look with the flower. So that flower can kind of go right in here and nestle in between the words. I've been using this journaling technique a lot lately. It's super easy. This one, it's so small it doesn't have the pre-scored cut along the back, so I just did a light cut with my X-Acto knife, and I can just peel off that back now. Super easy. Just be careful not to cut through both layers, just that paper. And now it has that clear. And so we'll just line that up with the bottom one and just stick that down. And then I like to use my Cricut scraper, and that just helps burnish it into the paper. And then the more you burnish it, the more the clear paper disappears into your background paper. Let's go ahead and pop this flower up on 3D foam tape. Well, then we have a little bit of dimension in all of the clusters. I felt I needed just something a little bit more in this bottom cluster. I had an open space between my journaling, so I brought in this brown, it's a paperboard heart, but then since I brought brown into that cluster, I wanted to bring brown into the other two. So I have another arrow, I have another heart, but now I have two arrows up in that top cluster by my title. So let's see what else I have in that brown. Here's another heart. We don't need two arrows side by side. So if I just bring in a heart, a brown heart in all of the clusters, that looks nice. And we can kind of hide a little bit of that under the flower. I'm using my Barely Art Glue to tack these hearts down. So I can just add a little bit to the back here and then stick that down. May have been easier with my tweezers rather than my fingers, but that's all right. We got her down. Do the same with these two. Adding the brown did complete the clusters in my opinion. This layout was definitely a roller coaster ride. It took many turns. It did not turn out anything like what I had originally planned in my head, but I think it came out even better than I planned. So I hope you guys enjoyed my thought process behind this layout, and it didn't give you too much whiplash going back and forth between the pages and laying out the photos 100 times, but that's real life. That's how I end up coming up with my layouts, is I just kind of play around. So these are how the clusters turned out. I love the dimension behind some of the pieces. I love how I included the journaling. Here's that other cluster. Look at that drawing of my nephew. Isn't that so good? If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment down below. I do have my Instagram linked in the description box if you'd like to follow me and see still shots. Until next time, live a life worth scrapping. Bye, guys.